Welcome to today's episode. We're talking about expert diabetes reversal strategies, winning with movement. And we're looking at how important this is for anyone that's dealing with metabolic issues like prediabetes, diabetes, metabolic syndrome. And if you are an entrepreneur, own your own business, this becomes even more important. And I'm so happy to introduce today's expert, Dr. Christiane Schroeter. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and it's such an important topic to talk about. So I'm really glad I'm going to share some of my insights and my personal story with you.
I can't wait. Christiane is a health coach and owns her own business. She's the founder of Hello Happy Nest. She graduated with her doctorate degree in applied economics and specialized in health economics, something I had not heard about before. And she actually wrote her dissertation on how price and income changes affect body weight. And yes, there's a story behind that. So how did you get in onto this path of looking at food, body weight, and what is your story? How you got interested in this area of health and wellness where you work today? I'd love to hear it.
Thank you so much for asking. So whenever we think about unraveling our personal stories, at the end, it always comes back to where did we grow up and with whom did we grow up, right? Yeah. So looking at my parents, my father actually had diabetes from a very young age. And my grandmother, I never met her. It was my father's mother, died of diabetes. So she lost her leg. And then related to that, just didn't recover from that surgery and passed away. So from a very, very young age, I realized how much food and exercise impacts your wellness, your health, and what you can really do to prevent diabetes or any metabolic issues. So I became very passionate about looking at food choices and wanted to actually become a dietitian. But then when I started working as a dietitian, I realized that the food is not it, just itself. You need to kind of combine it as what I call the magic three. You have the exercise, you have the food, and you also need to change your mindset. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this later and give you some great tips on how to do this. But that's really how I got started, that as a dietitian, I started working then together with health coaches that gave exercise plans. I also worked together with physicians and psychologists that then worked on the mindset change as well. So you really can't look at one of those in isolation. It needs to be the triple trifecta of happiness, as I say, to be saying hello happiness and aligning all three.
Yes, and I think that's such an important concept because we are whole people and every aspect of our being works together and has impact on each other. So as you came into this area, did you have any personal challenges that you had to deal with as you were looking at food and obesity and that sort of thing?
Yes, for sure. So I graduated with my dissertation in 2005. And I think at the beginning, I love actually that you brought this up. You had never heard about this before. So I studied in a very traditional department at Purdue, which is located in Indiana. A lot of people thought of obesity as really something where does it actually belong to? Does it belong to foods and nutrition? Does it belong more to kinesiology? Why is an economist looking at this? And why is an economist even worried about the price of food? But if you really think about it and you peel it back, when you make a choice in the supermarket, what ends up in your grocery cart is very much determined about the sticker that you see on the shelf. So if something is too expensive, but it's healthy, you're going to think, well, hold on, I could get a lot of things that are much cheaper. Well, then maybe not as good for me. But I would probably pay the same price for a lot more food and also more calories if you think that would maybe fill me up more. And that's really what the motivation was. So my challenge initially was, how do I really label foods? Do I say this is healthy food? Do I say this is unhealthy food? Because I don't want that people feel bad when I put something in their mouth.
Yeah.
I don't want to say, oh, you're not eating healthy today, because that actually leads to a bad mindset change as well, because people start to feel guilty, and that's not what we want at all. So I struggled for a long time convincing economists that, yes, there's a very important role for us in this arena of the health and looking at what can we really do to figure out prices of healthy foods. I'm just using that term right now because in a little while I'm going to tell you what we settled on with regard to the labels are just too high compared to fast foods that are far less dollar per calorie. Let's maybe use that term right there.
So that's so interesting. And I love that story that brought you into the work that you do now. But today we want to look specifically at movement, exercise, and those things related to making that part of our life. And so, in your experience with your background with family members that were struggling with diabetes, how did you see the impact of a movement, or how do you see it in your practice today? Either one. How does movement affect diabetes? Why is it important? Let's talk about that just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. So the main issue that I see is when people think about reversing a health issue, they immediately think about a quick solution. What can I do to get healthy in 5 days? And that's amazing, because that could kickstart a long-term change as well. But then sometimes people look for like the magic results. The magic pill really does not exist, especially now when it comes to diabetes, because you need to do small changes. So when you think of movement, it actually does not require you to spend a lot of money or even a lot of time at all. So in my practice is I always say it's the magic of small movements. And I sometimes have people that come to me and they say, Christiane, I love your teaching. I teach a 6-pack abs class, which sounds super intimidating because we're doing abs for 30 minutes. And I have people that come in and they say, my abs are just really weak. And I said, great, you're in the right place. And they said, well, I don't know I can do this class. And I said, if you take breaks in between, whatever, you probably still work your abs then for maybe 5-10 minutes. It's more than 0. And maybe the next time you're working them for 10, and maybe the next time for 15. And eventually you will maybe be able to complete most of a 30-minute class. Nobody cares. You are your master of your own destiny, and you just need to get started. So I always tell people with regard to movement, just pick up a small time frame that works for you, whether it's 5 minutes. You can even like make it like fun, like the magic minute or something. And that is always better than 0. It does not need to be it does not need to be an expensive gym. You don't even need to change clothing. You can just go for a walk. And what I'm always thinking is that that's sometimes a concept that once that's anchored in and it becomes a habit, that will lead to a chain reaction of other positive outcomes as well.
You know, that's so true. But I love people to understand, like, why is it that this is so important, even a few minutes at a time? If I am dealing with diabetes or metabolic syndrome, what does the exercise do in my body that helps me with blood sugars?
Yeah, so the regular physical activity in general, of course, especially if you're going outdoors, impacts your mind a lot. So a lot of what goes on after we eat is also stress related and just related to kind of like letting your body do the work. So the movement, of course, helps digestion, motility in your digestive tract. But at the same time, it's also what your mind does. So just being outdoors, slowing down your breathing, enjoying nature, all that movement, and as I say, it does not to be a cardio workout, already aids in becoming healthier, especially if you do a regular physical activity. It's just absolutely amazing, the benefits that we have seen there.
Yes, I think that's so true. I've even like noticed sometimes with clients, if I get them started just moving right after they get up from a meal, that they have noticed that their after meal sugars will often drop as much as 50 to 60 to 70 points in 20 minutes of walking that they weren't seeing if they just sat down in front of the TV after they ate. And so I think sometimes we really underestimate how powerful exercise is in helping us control blood sugars. So, it's not usually about weight loss per se, but it definitely is about our metabolism, which I just love. And I love how you say it doesn't have to be hard, it can be easy, it doesn't have to be a lot, it can be a little as we get started. So those are all super encouraging, and it helps us to see that even a little thing can be worth it. And I'd love to hear from you more about what are ways in which you like to tailor exercise plans to fit people? Give us some examples of how you do that.
So I just wanted to also follow up on what you said. So for me, I always tell clients or people come to my classes
Mm-hmm.
that muscles use glucose, and if you
Uh-huh.
say you have a weak core, it's just muscles that you need to develop, and it's just as your brain, right? It's
Mm,
also just a large muscle right there. So you just need to work on something. Like you're not going to run a marathon tomorrow. It's just something we're slowly working up to. So sometimes
mm-hmm.
it helps to just like be realistic and think, well, maybe if I do one push up today, maybe that's going to be amazing. And maybe another one tomorrow. Maybe I take a break afterwards. Just slowly picking it up. So what
Mm,
I've seen a lot is unrealistic expectations. I've seriously seen, and you're going to laugh about this, out of my six-pack abs class that I teach, I seriously have seen people that lift their shirts and look whether their abs look any different. and actually, this brings up a really, really important point.
uh,
Change does not need to be visible at all.
mhm,
It's lovely because I teach at a gorgeous gym and there are mirrors everywhere. It's lovely that we have those mirrors, but at the same time, don't worry about how it looks,
mm,
because when you work out, it's a lot about how you feel. And
mhm,
I actually say stay away from the scale for a while, because what I would like to see is that your weight at the beginning increases by water weight.
mhm,
So as you exercise more because of the movement, you're probably going to get thirstier. So you're going to drink more. So I wouldn't be surprised that if you go to the rec center and you leave and you're heavier than when you
mhm,
walked in because of the water.
mhm,
So don't worry at all about some random number on a scale. Actually, don't worry at all when you go shopping about some random size on a clothing label. Who cares, right? These are just some companies that put a label on there. It doesn't really matter at all. What you need to care about is how you feel, because
mm.
exercise will make you feel better. And that feeling then will translate into your body. And that feeling will also lead to that compound effect of maybe doing a little bit more or a little bit longer, or maybe you're meeting friends. And then you have that social aspect, which is super important for diabetes as well,
Yeah.
because you also have that connection that a lot of studies have actually shown is very important for your longevity.
Mhm.
So what I encourage is
Oops.
stay away from scale, stay away from looking at clothing size labels, a lot of these
Mhm.
numbers, and don't turn constantly labels around. Look at the caloric intake as well. So these are like things that, especially at the beginning, could be very discouraging. And I would say the first 3 to 5 days of establishing a health habit, such as an exercise, are the most crucial. After that, it's a little bit easier. But
Mhm.
at the beginning, people look for quick results, and that's just not happening. So we
Yes,
need
and
to go from the inside out.
that's so true. And I love that message that the number on the scale is not what constitutes health. There's that number can sometimes go up, can go down, and that is not like a direct measure of your health. As you get healthier, you're going to see more ideal numbers on the scale, but it is not something for most people to track, like even on a daily basis, because we have variations. And if we're doing exercise, I think something often people like think, well, I've been working out so hard, I should be losing weight, when if you're actually working out hard, you should be building muscle, which can, add weight but drop clothing sizes.
Exactly.
So I think that's such an important piece for people to understand, so they don't get discouraged.
Completely, yeah. So the three tips that I would give with regard to regular physical activity and diabetes are somewhat like, let's maybe start with the first one, just
Okay.
regular physical activity. And when I say physical activity, like if you think about you're like going to a food court in a shopping mall, and there's all these little restaurants lined up, right? There's your Asian, there's your American cuisine, over there we get the hamburgers, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Think about that. You're standing and you're like, oh my gosh, I have so many choices when it comes to exercise. That's you. You choose, right? You could choose
Mm-hmm.
something like walking, hiking, or maybe swimming. You could
Mm-hmm.
do biking. You could do something as simple as, yoga, stretching, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Gardening.
all what I brought up as what I call low cost. I did not say weightlifting. I did not
Right.
say Pilates studio or bar, which tend to be studio prices, $200 per month in our area. I did not mention any of those because all what you need is a pair of sneakers. Because yes, you do need those.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would like that you support your lower back. I would like that you support your knees. Super important. So when you think about physical activity, there are so many things that could be included in this. It just needs to be regular. And
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, because I teach a lot of different classes. So I teach spin classes, which is
Mm-hmm.
high intensity on a bike. I teach weightlifting classes, very, very important, especially for females as they're aging because their bone density goes down.
Mm-hmm.
I also teach Pilates, which
Mm-hmm.
is great for your core, building strength and length. I teach the six-pack abs class, and I also teach a bar class, which is really good for your posture.
Uh-huh.
And I teach total body resistance training, which uses resistance bands. You could just buy them on Amazon,
Right.
right?
Right.
Those little straps.
Mm-hmm.
You could do that at home or a door frame. In any
Yeah.
case, I tell people, if I see you in one of those five, yes. But I don't need to see you in all five of these different types of classes, because when you're in a food court, you don't like all the food choices, but maybe you do. But some are like, you know what? I really actually don't like this particular type of exercise at all. Amazing.
Yes.
I mean,
And I love that. It's like a smorgasbord, right? We have
yes,
a lot of choices when it comes to exercise. And what's most important, I think, to pick a form of exercise that doesn't stress your body too much based on what your current physical activity level is, and that you find fun. Because if it's fun, I think you're going to be so much more likely to do it regularly and consistently than if it's not.
the fun is super important, because the regular activity, of course, if you think about this, you need to be treating yourself as your best friend and doing
Mm-hmm.
what you would recommend your best friend. If your best friend would call you and say, like, I'm feeling really low today, what would you do? You'd say, let's go for a walk. Let's grab
Mm-hmm.
coffee. Let's do something that makes you feel good. Maybe, we're going to go and garden, looking at flowers.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
what you would tell your friends. So tell that yourself too. Treat yourself as if you would treat somebody else, and look at your body as like your magic vessel, your happy nest, as I call it in my business. I always say, hello,
Mm-hmm.
happiness, because I would like that you arrive at the point to where you feel comfortable with your body and what you're doing to it.
Yes, I think that is so important for everyone. And as we as entrepreneurs owning our own businesses think about the importance of health and exercise, I want to ask you two questions. One is, what have you found to be the biggest challenge for you with priority on health and priority on building a business, that entrepreneurial space where it's like sometimes we feel like it's on us? And how has paying attention to your health made a difference in your business? So I'd love to
Right.
just hear you kind of go into those two things.
Yeah, so earlier I was kind of saying there are these 3 points. So I'm going to address your two questions with these 3 points. So I said regular physical activity, super important, and customized exercise plans, So really figuring out what works for you and your day, super, super important. So the regularity, the customization, because nobody is the same. Nobody is feeling as good even from today to tomorrow, right? We are different
Right.
each day. And the last one is the lifestyle integration and the consistency that you really make exercise a habit. So when I started my business, I felt I just needed to get things done. I set myself a deadline. And you kind of like see my background now. This is my home office right there. But I didn't work at this particular setup, which is absolutely gorgeous. Now I have a fabulous chair. I have a desk that lifts and lowers, right? I feel healthy in this space now. I sit at the kitchen table and I sat in what's called the shrimp position, which is kind of like that, right? I have to tell you that because I'm a professor, I teach until mid of December. I teach actually entrepreneurship and innovation at the university. From that, let's say 12th of December until the 24th, I wanted to get my website all up and going with an online wellness program. And I said, I'll get 12 days, I can do it. And so every day I sat in that shrimp position, just working on my website. And I put everything else to the side, which entrepreneurs do that a lot, because they just have this vision, like I need to get this tunnel vision, I need to get this done, and everything else, whatever. All of a sudden, right after Christmas, I couldn't move my shoulder anymore. And so my daughter's birthday is on December 30th. And I'm still very sorry, child. But on her birthday, we actually had to go to the emergency room because I had like what's called like a frozen shoulder. I seriously couldn't move anymore. And people looked at me and they said, this lady is like looking healthy. What's wrong? And I said, I know. I totally disregarded my health. And entrepreneurs do that because I thought I just need to get this done. I can do like 5 minutes here. Who cares about how I sit? Yes, the shoulder hurts. I'm just going to. You can't do it. Yeah. Because I feel sorry that I didn't take 5 minutes to stretch. I feel sorry for the fact that, yes, it felt uncomfortable sitting there. And I also feel sorry for my family that I had to put up with this after effect right now. Because if you really think about it, your body will tell you, oh, this is not good. And it will become louder and louder and louder, that voice. And if you keep on ignoring it, the consequences take much longer to clean up than preventing how you even got there. So as an entrepreneur, we frequently think about the short-term benefits and how that maybe those websites, those plans that we have to complete, the deadlines. And we don't think about the long-term health outcome, which could be taking a much longer time to reverse. So I had to go to physical therapy and all this. And I was like, what did I get myself into? and
that impacts. Absolutely. And it impacts your productivity. It impacts your bottom line. You had extra expenses that you had to put out to recover from that. And it's like, we really need to count the cost of ignoring our health. And it's not always dollars and cents. Sometimes it's our relationships, like not being able to show up for your daughter's birthday because you're in the emergency room, right? And I think that with metabolic syndrome and prediabetes, which are early signs that things aren't going well, because you don't feel pain, we can ignore it, or we think we can ignore it, but it will catch up to us. And so I really want to encourage you to prioritize these healthy living practices that we've been talking about today, so that you can actually maximize your impact in your business and in your vision for how you want to impact the world. I so appreciate what you shared there, Christiane. It's so important.
I'm sure that none of the listeners will ever think of shrimp the same way now that I mentioned the shrimp position. I have to tell you another story. Right after I had my first daughter, I actually had this typical thinking like, oh my gosh, I need to get in shape. And here I am, a professor, like I have all these expensive professional clothing and I don't fit in any of them. And what am I going to do is, well, I'm just going to join a local gym. So I met with the it was a kind of like personal trainer there. And I told him, well, so yes, I have children. I
Mm-hmm.
work full time at the university. I also have my personal business, and I lined all this up. And then I said, could you please give me a recommendation, a customized plan? As I just mentioned, the top three that I'm really emphasizing: the regular
Mm-hmm.
activity, the customization, and the integration. Could you give me a customized exercise plan for this? So
Mm-hmm.
he said, okay, so yeah, it looks like you really need to tighten up your abdominals, your shoulders, blah, blah. So I would recommend an hour workout 5 days per week. And I said, there's no way I can do this. I mean, this is absolutely insane. And I know as an average adult, 150 minutes of exercise is great per week. So now you do the math in your head, that's like on 150 minutes. And this guy just recommended me 5 times 60. Why am I working out so much? I said, and he said, oh, just like, I just really would like that you get started. And, the way that you stand there, and I can see there's some extra fat around your midsection. And I said, you have children? Because I don't even know I'm going to take an hour per day, because it's not like the hour that I'm here. I also need to drive there and
Mm-hmm.
then change and then drive
Mm-hmm.
back and all this. So any of that is really not included in your little calculation right now. So when I think of entrepreneurs, I frequently think also of the hustlers, which is the name of my podcast, the Happy Healthy Hustlers. So you need to make exercise as small as possible, but at the same time, you also have a family. So don't
Mm-hmm.
ever disregard those, because of course that comes first. So your health is important, the relationship with your family is important. And if all that lines up, your business is going to thrive, trust me, because I think that you can get things done much better if you're actually feeling well, and
Yes.
if you are in a happy state because your family is supporting you, and they will support you if they feel you're aligning yourself within them. Social connection is so
Mm-hmm.
important, and it's really something that we as entrepreneurs need to highly regard, and that goes a long ways.
I really love that you bring that out because it is such an important piece. And sometimes when we struggle with fitting everything in, the taking care of ourselves, the taking care of our important relationships, and taking care of our business, sometimes it can feel overwhelming. But I want to encourage you that as owners of our own businesses, as entrepreneurs, we get to grow and develop in our leadership so that we are able to manage these different aspects in ways that are going to actually serve us long term. And so I want to challenge you to do whatever you need to do, whether it's, getting a coach in one of those areas, whether it's getting some more social support in one of these areas, so that you can grow yourself, grow your relationships, and grow your business without sacrificing any of them, because we don't have to. And a lot of it has to do with seeing what our real excuse me, our real options are. What are the possibilities ahead of us? And as leaders, we get to step into that. And so I just want to encourage and inspire each one of you that's listening that yes, this is something that we can do, and you are part of a community now that's going to support you as you move forward personally and your business and in all of the areas that we've talked about today. I just really enjoyed our conversation today, Dr. Schroeter, and I would like to give you a moment to give us a closing thought, something you want to make sure we walk away with, as well as, don't let me forget, you have a free gift for our listeners. So if you want to say a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So as closing thoughts, and given that everybody probably wonders, what like, first of all, about the gift that I'll tell you a little while, but everybody wonders now, how in the world do I line up all this? Like, is she like Superwoman? How does she make it work? My biggest recommendation really is, so I have a calendar and I schedule my exercise
Mm.
very diligently. So I use
Hmm.
different colors on my calendar. It's an electronic calendar. And like, for instance, my work, I have green because that's just what I associate with work. My kids are red. And then I have my exercises blue. My business is purple. So what I would really encourage is, you need to schedule this, because if
Hmm.
you just schedule your work and you come home and you close your laptop, you're like, oops, day's over. Oopsie, well, tomorrow. Well, then that's not going to happen. We know that. So I need to schedule time for
Hmm.
myself. I even schedule date time with my husband, believe it or
Hmm.
not.
No,
Right?
I think that's excellent.
It's social aspects. So you need to figure out, even if it's just 5-15 minutes, to do something like that, to get
Hmm.
that in. So to get you started, I have a little gift for you. So I created, coming along with your calendar, a little checklist that
Mm.
lets you start daily healthy habits, or weekly healthy habits, or monthly healthy habits, or even annual. And it's just a 1-page PDF document. And what you can do with it is you can pick and choose. Remember the food court? We are not eating everything. You are basically just going to pick and choose what sounds good to you. And then you can add this to your life, and you can use the checklist and check it off. Because if there's one thing that it sounds and feels important, it's like, oh, I did it. You're checking it off. So you need to think about the positive benefit of completing a task. And you need to think about the fact that I put this all together for you, so you don't have to. Step 1 is done. There is a list. It's just like going to the grocery store and not just like willy-nilly throwing things in a shopping cart.
Hmm.
So you have a list that you can follow. There's a plan. It's free. And I would love also to answer any questions, because if I can help you customize whatever your situation is, I would love to do that as well. So think about the checklist as kind of like an extension of our conversation here, to get you started with your regular fitness activity, with your customization, and also the integration into your day, those 3 aspects I talked about.
I love that. And I thank you so much for your generosity in sharing that with us. You will find a link to this checklist on the same page where you're watching this video, as well as information on how to reach out and contact Dr. Schroeter if you have other questions for her, you want to pursue some of this at a little deeper level. So I just want to say thank you so much for being with us here today. And I want to remind each one of you that health is wealth, and it comes by choice, not by chance. So thank you for taking the time to listen today. And I hope that you walk away with something very practical that you can start up leveling your life with today. Thank you for being here with us.